If you're a musician who only ever has one hit your whole career, it helps to nail down a songwriting credit. Otherwise, you might end up running a car dealership. Come On Eileen was as unlikely as it was massive. Under the direction of frontman Kevin Rowland, Dexys' Midnight Runners dressed like street urchins and rocked a sound influenced by American R&B, early rock and roll, and traditional Celtic music. Come On Eileen includes fiddles, a banjo solo, and a mid-song chant, which was somehow a formula for hitting the #1 spot on the pop chart in the early 80s. Dexys' Midnight Runners took another 8 singles to the top 40 in their native UK, though Come On Eileen was the only one to break through across the pond. The group made a lot of money for Rowland, but by 1987 he'd blown through most of it on cocaine and heroin. He ended up evicted from his home in London and filed for bankruptcy. With a bluesy guitar riff and a hypnotic groove, Norman Greenbaum's 1969 single Spirit in the Sky combined the sounds of the era with religious lyrics. That unique mix made it irresistible, as it flew to #1 in the UK and on the US pop chart. But this would prove to be the only time Greenbaum would ever make it into the top 40, either as a solo act or with his former group, Dr. West's Medicine Show and Junk Band. But Spirit in the Sky has certainly endured, appearing in more than 100 movies or TV shows over the years, as well as plenty of commercials. As a sole-listed performer and songwriter, Greenbaum received the majority of the royalties and fees generated by Spirit in the Sky until he sold the publishing rights. Nevertheless, he still gets at least $10,000 whenever his song shows up in a movie or TV show. As of the mid-2000s, he resided in a 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Rosa, California. As he explained to the New York Times in 2006, "It's not like it's made me rich, as you can see, but because of Spirit in the Sky, I don't have to work. So in that sense, it's a comfortable living." Rap was in its early stages and confined mostly to New York in 1979 when Sugarhill Records co-owner Sylvia Robinson came across Lovebug Startsky at a club in Harlem rapping over an instrumental piece of the chic disco song Good Times.
"I'm gonna make a hip-hop album, no matter what."
Sensing the dawn of a cultural phenomenon, Robinson put together a group of young men, named them the Sugarhill Gang, and put them in a studio to capture a mishmash of rhyming stories called Rapper's Delight. That track brought hip-hop into the mainstream. It peaked at number 36 on the US pop chart and number 4 on the R&B chart. But the performers on the song didn't see much money for their work. Chic's Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards forced Sugarhill Records to list them as co-writers, while Robinson claimed a big portion of the proceeds by giving herself a songwriting credit. Meanwhile, she had signed Sugarhill Gang members Wonder Mike and Master G to such restrictive contracts that they made only a total of $250,000 in the 30 years after the song's release. Toni Basil's 1982 single Mickey was one of the first songs to really break through thanks to its music video. It already sounded like a pep rally chant, so it only made sense for Basil, a former cheerleader herself, to direct the video as a series of cheerleading routines. It went to #1 in the US, but she never took another song anywhere near the top 40. Even though Mickey could be heard just about everywhere, it didn't earn Basil much money because she didn't write it. British band Racy had recorded a song called Kitty in 1979, and Basil flipped the gender of the subject and changed the name. So Kitty songwriters Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin are the ones who profited from the royalties. And much of the money to which Basil was entitled, she says she never received. She filed a lawsuit against numerous record labels and media companies in 2017 to reacquire the copyright to her recording. Basil emerged victorious in 2022. Jamie Walters got his big break when he landed the lead role of wannabe rock star Alex O'Brien on The Heights, a musical drama series that aired for one season on Fox in 1992. The show's theme song, How Do You Talk to an Angel, featuring Walters' vocals and credited to the show's fictional band, ended up hitting #1 in the pop chart. But just a week later, The Heights was canceled due to low ratings. 2 years after that, Walters joined the cast of Beverly Hills 90210, and in 1995, his rock ballad Hold On made it to the top 20 of the pop charts and the top 10 on the adult contemporary list. With one smash as the singer of The Heights and one of his own, Walters thus became the rare double one-hit wonder. But Walters left Hollywood behind in 2002. Instead, he followed another childhood dream by becoming a firefighter and paramedic for the Los Angeles City Fire Department. He told the US Sun in 2024, "I'm thankful that I was able to switch gears and do something that I'm proud of and that my kids find interesting and cool." The hip-hop trio Third Base recorded 3 well-received albums before they could claim a bona fide hit single. Pop Goes the Weasel hit the top 30 of Billboard's R&B, dance, and pop charts in 1991, gaining attention partly because it was a savage diss track targeted at Vanilla Ice.
They didn't sell a fraction of what you sold.
Nobody
At the end of the day.
Third Base's MC Serch launched a moderately successful solo career in 1992, which marked the end of his group. His bandmate Pete Nice, real name Peter Nash, took the baseball pun in the group's name and ran with it, embarking on a new, if certainly lower-paying career as a historian of the national pastime. He spent 7 years researching and writing baseball legends of Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery. He also published a book about the Red Sox called Boston's Royal Rooters and operated a memorabilia shop near the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. Unfortunately, the money he did make, he did so unscrupulously. He was sued over phony merchandise and charged with tax fraud. Young pop stars like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera paved the way for Willa Ford, who released her debut album Willa Was Here in 2001. It spawned one notable single, I Wanna Be Bad. There may have been more hits in Ford's future if not for the intervention of tragic global events. She told Billboard in 2017, "A lot of people don't realize this, but my second single was released on September 11th, 2001. Everything that happened that day froze. The world stood still as it should have. My second single didn't do well because anything that launched that day kinda got canned." With Ford's career momentum stalled, Atlantic Records shelved her next album completely. She then moved on to other areas of entertainment, landing guest spots on TV shows like Raising Dad and Leverage, starring in a remake of Friday the 13th and posing for Playboy. She now works in a lead creative position at her home design company, W. Ford Interiors.
There was a moment when I decided I wanted to be in control of the yes and the no that was said to me.
In 1978, a band called Valentine released a single self-titled album that didn't make much of an impression on the general public. But 5 years later, one of its members scored a solo hit when his fist-pumping anthem about perseverance was selected for inclusion on the soundtrack of a long-awaited sequel to a popular movie. A musician?
You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
The song was Far From Over, which hit number 10 on the charts thanks to its inclusion in Stayin' Alive, the follow-up to Saturday Night Fever, which just so happened to be directed by Frank Stallone's older brother, Sylvester. The older, more famous Stallone helped out his brother whenever he could, getting his songs into many of his films. But that didn't bring Frank much fame or fortune, as he never scored another hit on the same level as Far From Over. By 2008, he was starring on the reality show Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling out of financial desperation. Then in 2024, he sold off much of his extensive guitar collection via Instagram. The Vapors' 1980 new wave hit Turning Japanese is told from the point of view of a man desperately fixated on a woman he can't get with the implication being that he resorts to self-love instead. That risque nature didn't prevent the song from being a top 5 hit in the UK-based Vapors' home country, while it also scraped into the top 40 in the US.
I never expected to hear my own song on the radio.
But not much of note happened afterwards. The Vapors never had another hit and broke up after their second album flopped in 1981, although they eventually reunited in the 2020s and recorded a couple of independently released albums. When frontman Dave Fenton first put the band together in the late 70s, he was studying law, and after their breakup, he worked as an attorney. Before he retired, his most recent position was as the resident lawyer for the UK's non-profit Musicians Union. The Greatest American Hero ran for 3 seasons on ABC from 1981 to 1983, an action comedy about a bumbling teacher who can't quite figure out how to operate a special suit given to him by aliens. The series used a soaring soft rock theme song co-written by legendary composer Mike Post. A session musician named Joey Scarbury was tapped to sing the track, as well as a number of other pleasant numbers on the show. The theme song, Believe It or Not, went all the way to number 2 on the pop charts and number 3 on the adult contemporary charts in 1981. A second Scarbury song from the show, When She Dances, stalled at number 49, and by 1984 his recording career was essentially over. He was paid the legal minimum fee to record Believe It or Not, though he's since earned a steady though modest income from its royalties. He told Noble Mania in 2014, "I made the money back 100-fold in residuals and royalties. I'll go a year and make $3,000, and the next year tens of thousands." In the 2010s, Scarbury was managing a car dealership in Santa Monica, California. Walter Egan spent most of the 70s collaborating with some of the era's biggest names in rock. Graham Parsons recorded Egan's song Hearts on Fire, Jackson Browne added him to his band, and Fleetwood Mac's Lindsey Buckingham co-produced his 1978 LP Not Shy. That release included Egan's long-awaited commercial breakthrough, a top 10 pop hit, Magnet and Steel. Alas, follow-up singles and albums sold poorly, and Egan spent most of the 80s working as a graphic artist. He also appeared on TV in a non-musical capacity, as a regular contestant on various game shows. He quietly ended a recording break of 16 years with the independently released Walternative in 1999, and by the 2010s he'd settled into a career as a part-time touring musician. He supplemented his income as a substitute music teacher in Williamson County, Tennessee. In 1993, Whitney Houston set a record for most weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with her cover of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You. That massive hit was the only thing standing in the way of hip-hop duo Tag Team having the biggest song of the year in the form of Whoop There It Is. They sold 4 million copies of that song, but they couldn't sustain the public's interest for very long, and their subsequent singles all flopped. While Tag Team didn't remain on the top of the charts, it wasn't the end of their story. They may not be raking in millions, but they're doing alright for themselves. They play corporate parties and conferences for $5,000 a pop, while royalties from their one hit earn each member about $250,000 a year. And in 2020, they cashed in on some 90s nostalgia by playing themselves in a Geico commercial.
So what are you waiting for? Hip-hop group Tag Team to help you plan dessert?